Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Gibson Test of Cognitive Skills webinar. We will have a Q&A time at the end, but feel free to chat throughout. My name is Tanya Mitchell. I'll turn on my webcam. It's a more dreary day here in Colorado Springs, but that's okay. We get them so few times a year that it's actually a little bit enjoyable to have that. So I'll take you through this Gibson test, and then at the end, we would like to share one of the Gibson tests with you, and so we'll send you a link so that you can try the Gibson test out. But feel free to ask questions at any time. Go ahead. Just a little bit about the Gibson test. The Gibson test was created by the founder of LearningRx, Dr. Ken Gibson, who's also my father. And the reason that we created the test is as we went into other countries with our one-on-one brain training programs, we realized that there was a huge need for this type of testing, not only in different languages, but also the ability to have some type of test to measure whatever interaction or training that you were offering to people. LearningRx is a one-on-one training, brain training program that's focused on these 7 core cognitive skills that help people learn, think, and perform easier, better, and faster. And LearningRx celebrated in 2017 100,000 brains trained. And the programs that we do along with the testing, the Gibson testing, is for anyone from 4 to 94. We just had a study published recently that had our oldest client at 95. So that's just a little bit about LearningRx, and that is how this testing started, was to offer some type of measurement tool and tool in different languages so that people could find out if the reasons that they were having difficulty were due to weak cognitive skills, and then also a way to measure improvement based on whatever type of intervention you were offering. The Gibson test was published last year. It's a peer-reviewed test, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. And it was normed and validated by our Gibson Institute of Cognitive Research, which also you can see here has been doing some pretty interesting studies. So if you love brain health, the idea of brain training, it has completed 20+ research studies in the last few years. The first study they did was on our brain training programs, and the randomized controlled trial showed a treatment group with a 21-point increase in IQ. Compared to a control group. That was based on the Woodcock-4. And then you can see we're looking at MRI scans right now for severe brain injury. So if you want to know more about the institute that created the test, you can go to gibsonresearchinstitute.org. And these LearningRx centers we have are across the country. We have about 70 locations here in the United States, and then about 400 licensed or clinical providers worldwide. We're in about 47 countries with our programs, and that is also where our Gibson testing is being used around the world. As I mentioned, it's in about 20 different languages. So I'm Tanya Mitchell. I'm Chief Research and Development Officer here at LearningRx, and I'm also a big very interested in brain health and keeping my brain tested as well to make sure that I'm doing okay. I show this picture of my family because as a parent, I've had quite a few questions on my own children. Within this group of 6 people, I have people with brain injury. I have reading difficulties or had reading difficulties. I have behavior issues, I had ADHD, and I had multiple concussions with some of my children. So the testing was a great tool just to have as a baseline for them. And we just did the test at home for the kids. And then when, like my daughter had a concussion for cheerleading, I had this baseline testing that was really helpful. And then of course, multiple kids have been through our training as well. So what we wanted to do was go over why we test today, the different causes and concerns that the test can help address for your patients or clients, and why testing multiple skill areas is so vital to helping not only who you're testing, but to give them a good treatment plan. We'll look at the actual test and what areas it tests, and then show maybe some of our results with this type of test and how it works for brain training. The first part of the test really was, or the reason, one of the main reasons the test was created was to really help parents and educators understand why some children, children have difficulty learning. So that was the major focus of the test. And, we know if you deal with testing that people come with different tools. They have, every person is unique and different and comes with different tools. And so, and I've had this in my own life, you have different kids. Some kids finish their homework right away. And then other kids, 2 hours later, you're trying to figure out where they are. And so I had these own questions. Why does this one child, just excel at all her learning and love all her learning, and this other kid I can never find, they just like disappear. So it was a really good tool for me to understand that as well. And so when we look at why people would use the test, we consider all the different reasons or causes of why someone may have difficulty, including sometimes parents think it could be education. I'm a military family, which means we move around. So there is possibilities of, gaps in knowledge or instruction from a teacher. It could be motivation, although I think we all know that most young kids are very motivated to learn, and it's only later on after struggling with something that they might lose their motivation. But a lot of research outside of the research that we have really shows that about 80%, 88% if they have reading difficulties are due to poor cognitive skills. And so the consequences that parents see would be struggles with homework, low grades, maybe I had a child who wanted to, just have a career fishing, which isn't a bad career, but just limited maybe opportunities in life. Maybe they pick poor friends, and we see that, or just low motivation. And so the test gives us the ability to see if any of that is due to poor cognitive skills. So we would say that the top 3 reasons why someone would want to use the cognitive test is it eliminates guesswork. So instead of maybe investing in a bunch of different types of therapies or training, and it doesn't work because it's not focused on the right area, once you have those results in hand, then you can make a better decision. And we've had people come to us that have spent maybe $20,000, $30,000 on different programs without really understanding why their child is struggling. And so the test helps eliminate, wasting money on the wrong treatment. And then one of the great things about the Gibson test is once you test, you're able to also post-test. So I'm going to show you a final report. So whether you're studying, your own intervention, or maybe you already have some interventions, or maybe you just want to see someone over time, this test allows you to pre-test, post-test, and then have final reports and keep all that data somewhere so that you could test later on as well. So here's some test results, and you can see that these are based on different concerns that someone came in with. So a parent came in with concern for her 11-year-old boy. He was having academic difficulties. He had also been diagnosed with autism. So one of the first things we do is we have the parent fill out a learning skills rating scale. That would be on the left of the screen. And so they would give a score to different areas, and then you have the actual test results on the right. So it's very helpful for professionals to have both. Now you have the observational data mixed with the test data to come up with a real idea of how that child is doing and how observation correlates to test data. Here's a parent with a 7-year-old, and this child had reading difficulties. And so you can see, again, they're observational to test data. So that's a nice part of the test. And normally, you would expect, if you're a reading expert, you'd expect the auditory processing area to be very weak. So this was a really good finding for that parent, because they could see that it wasn't auditory processing. So it's not that this child needed more phonemic awareness training, just that they hadn't had a lot of instruction, maybe due to some other areas if you look at the observational area. Okay, now this, what's interesting about this test is we have been able to correlate test results with changes in the brain. So here you have test data on someone who had multiple concussions and then was later diagnosed with a brain injury based on their MRI. But you can see here that they were very low in some areas. And that was, we have their MRI scan. So you can see how their brain injury affected their skills. This is someone who had an athletic scholarship before the concussions, but we were able to pick up why they were struggling as far as cognitive issues. So the test is based on the Carroll Horn-Cattell model of intelligence. This is the same type of test theory that the Woodcock-Johnson and the WISC are based on. Let's see what slide I'm on here. There we go. And so this would look at these 7 core areas, and it would also test word attack, since that is a major focus. You know, parents have a lot of, we get a lot of complaints about struggling with reading. About 60% of the clients that we see in our centers have a reading difficulty. So we want to look at each one of these areas when we test. And the reason we want to do that is if you look at reading struggles, you can see here's over 2,000 clients with reading struggles. And based on these test results, and based on research in the past, you would expect the auditory processing issue. But we see that they also have memory issues and they have processing speed issues. And it makes a ton of sense when you think about reading as a whole. Because the English language is a very difficult language to learn, you need good memory skills. So even if you have good phonemic awareness skills, if you don't have good memory skills, you're in trouble. And so we're looking for clusters of weak cognitive skills, which this type of test helps with. Here's another very interesting study. This is on over 5,400 clients that had been previously diagnosed with ADHD. And you have your attention score. This is the attention score is obviously it's about 40th percentile, but there are 3 other scores that are lower than their attention score. So this is very interesting data, but we wouldn't know this if we just looked at attention. Here's students on the spectrum, and you can see again there's a cluster of weak cognitive skills. Here's brain injury. So by testing all the areas, we're able to come up with a much better treatment plan or training program for our clients. So the Gibson test, just a little bit about it. It is the largest normative database of adults and children of any major digital assessment. It measures auditory processing, which is very unique for an online test, and word attack. And the auditory processing is nonsense words, so it's able to be used over a bunch of different languages. It has very strong psychometric properties. You can see that in the technical manual, but it has over 20 languages in the digital version. And with the languages, it also comes then with a report in that language. So if if you're working with someone whose main language is Mandarin, their parents probably speak Mandarin, and it's nice to be able to hand them a report in Mandarin so that you have that to offer. This is a test. We have the digital version, which you can just purchase online. We also have an interactive version, which has a book and if you like more of that in-person approach. So you're able to offer it 2 different ways. And you can see here the peer-reviewed article that was published on the test. This is part of that article, and you can see on the bottom there some of the major digital tests that are offered. Again, this is the only test that offers the auditory processing portion, which for English language is really important. And you can see that the age range is from 5 to 85 in the norming data. And it covers all major or core cognitive skills. So just a little bit on each one of these skills. For memory, we're going to look at both long-term memory, and we do this by having a test at the beginning and then a test at the end on what they've been tested on, as well as a working memory test. The visual processing test, and they can use either a mouse or they can use a tablet. So they can use like a touch screen to do this test. And this is, a really important skill for math, geography, science, history. Logic and reasoning, we all sort of have an idea of this, but it's a matrix type test. And if you were going to give one test for IQ, this is the type of test you would give. Processing speed, and again, they can either touch or they can click with a mouse. And then auditory processing. And so this is using English words, but it is nonsense words. So, there's thousands of languages within the world. So we're just using some nonsense sounds put together to distinguish, to understand their ability to distinguish sounds in a syllable. And this is the #1 skill needed for reading and spelling a sound-based language. And then word attack. This is an English word attack test because so many of the people that we test have difficulties with this. We include the test, but as a test provider, you would have the option of adding this to a report or not adding it to a report, or testing it or not testing it if you didn't want to. And then the test report also offers you an IQ score, a composite IQ score, and an attention score. So if you go, when you're a wholesaler of the test, you have an administrative site, and you can go to that site and all your test data is stored there, so that if you want to come back and test later, that you're able to do different reports. You can see here there's 2 different reports that are offered for this student. And it comes with raw scores, percentiles, and standard scores. And as I mentioned, you're able to decide what part of the report you want to show. So you can include the word attack, you can include attention and composite IQ. It's up to you as the tester to decide what you want to include on the report, as well as the address or on the report as well. So here's the actual report. The first page gives a description of what the test is, how our philosophy on IQ, and then what these test results mean for the reader. You have a place where you can put in the primary reason for them taking the test, and then they're given a sheet where they can fill in chief concerns, so areas of concern for them, so that we can try to correlate their concerns with their observations with our test results. Here's just an idea of some of the questions they would answer for the learning skills rating scale. And I believe there's 64 of these questions that they answer. and that's what turns into this graph. So minimal concern would be green, significant concern would be red. So you can see where the parents' observations are. And then this is the graph that shows their test results. You have the age equivalent if they're 16 or under. If they're older than 16, then we're just going to do percentiles. You have their age equivalent, standard score, and percentile rank. And then you'll also get this graph, which shows their age if they are above 16 or under 16. This graph, and so just an idea, just in case. So the standard score and the percentile rank, here you can see where those measure up. So standard scores are really important for research, but percentile ranks have a lot more meaning for the parent or the client that you're working with. So for a percentile, if you have 100 people standing in a row, our percentiles would be based on how that person ranked out of 100. So if they were the 61st, it's based on their age. So if they're 10 and they have the 61st percentile, that means 60 10-year-olds tested below them and 39 10-year-olds tested above them. You also get a percentile report. And the report that we have is not numbered, so you're able to pick and choose which graphs you want to use. Average percentile rank would be between the 40th and 60th percentile. This is a radar graph, and some of our clients really like this graph. Others aren't sure what to do with it, but I think it's really interesting because you have sort of, maybe someone's potential, human potential, and then you're able to see where they're meeting that and where there could be room for some type of treatment. And that, of course, correlates with the Gibson test graph. So this is part of the final report. So if you do 2 testings, then you can see how they ranked pre and post based on the percentiles here. Or if there was no change, as well as the radar graph. You can see there's the gray in the middle. So this is a pre and post to show where they were before an intervention and where they fall after an intervention. And this is something that you can do more than once. So this is a pre and post, as well as a 1-year follow-up. So you're able to watch people over time with this test. Here's the test in Arabic, I believe. I don't read Arabic, but the graphs also will come in whatever language. So if you want to look more at the technical side of this test, you can go to gibsontest.com and then go to administer test, and it will have the technical manuals for you. Just to give you an idea, if you are a parent interested in this testing, the best way to do the testing, would be in person. If you're a school, I really think this is a good test for schools or large groups, because you're able to test large groups of people, and then you can focus in on those that need individual testing. It's a great screening tool besides offering a full test report. And if you purchase 10 tests, then they go to $10 each. And you can do that at any time. You just go on there. We set up then this admin site and send you password and username information, so that you would already have your own site, and then you can just purchase off of that whenever you want. Whenever you purchase more than 99 tests, they go down to $6 each. And then if you purchase more than 500 tests, so if you have a couple schools that you want to test or a school, then they go down to $4 each. You have that full storage capacity. So let me just see if we have any questions here. Feel free to send me your questions, or we can chat in private. And I will send you a link, so you can try the test yourself. And if you'd like me to go over test results, we can do that. If you are a parent and you're really interested in help for yourself, then you can also go to gibsontest.com, and you can purchase your own test for $97, or you can purchase a test and a consultation for $147. Just let me know if you're interested in that. So thank you so much. This is a recorded webinar, so feel free to pass it on to other people. And it was nice talking with you all, and we'll follow up with that link for you. So you all take care and have a great day.